Everybody. Told you last week that this is going to be put everything together and reveal everything what a lot of people have been asking about. So we're not actually looking at any one specific book tonight. We're actually going to be doing a lot of not a lot, but some recap and bringing everything together and breaking it down. You guys will get it. But before that, I was asked last week. See, I love these questions. So we were talking about this word up here, Kates, and I told you that when I did the investigation, I looked at it, that it means end, but an extremity after utmost border and infinite process. And so I was asked, how can end and infinite be kind of part of a single definition? That's actually a really good question, because obviously infinite means there is no end. It's just continuous, and end means there's an end. So when I originally found this word and I was breaking it down, doing etymology, so I actually made a response. It's like, it's kind of on the concept of God and his infinite, what he's going to do, his big plan. And that is true to an extent, but here's why I'm breaking this down, because I appreciate the question. So where this comes from, and I had to do a lot of, a lot of etymological breakdown of this silly word Kates, to see why it is defined with the word infinite within the word itself, also meaning end, what we were talking about. So here's what it breaks down to. So it's not really a group, it is a thing, and it's called Kabbalah. And everybody's ever heard of it. It can either be spelled with a K or a Q. So Kabbalah is the study of Jewish mysticism of the Torah and rabbinic literature. So what their job is, and this started kind of about 1 BC, or I'm sorry, 1,000 years before Christ. And the concept behind it was that they would kind of look at a word, or look at the Torah or whatever, and go, okay, here's what it is. But they look at it in its more of its God kind of mystic way. And I don't mean mystic like in something that's like sorcery and stuff. They're looking at words, looking at phrases, looking at things that are said, mostly prophetical, trying to figure out the bigger thing, like how God would be seeing this, how God would be understanding it, because he's infinite. I should use the word infinite, because he's everything. He's all powerful. And so that's where this kind of came from. And just to give an example, so like when they look at things like Daniel and Ezekiel, they speak of, that they kind of look at as examples where this word is kind of being used, is because there's so much prophecy within those. So they're breaking down in this mystical way, is like, what more can this mean? What does it really mean in a God kind of way, in his infinite, being infinite himself? Now, when I was kind of reading on this, and like going, I get where it's coming from. It makes sense. It's not something that is kind of like, I don't want to say it's not like satanic or something crazy like that, because it's actually accepted by the Jewish culture. And that's something else I looked into. It's like, okay, here's these people doing these things. What does the Jewish scholars and people that study Hebrew and ancient Hebrew, what do they think about this? And most of them think it's a good thing, what they're doing. And so to give an example, so like I said this a long time ago when I first started, how I drove down this revelational thing. And I'd already been doing studying, is because a lot of times people would say, oh, that person's saved, that person's not saved. And like the concept behind it, that people, they have this authority to be Jesus and say who has salvation, who doesn't. And I always thought that was, I always had a problem with that. And a certain person said that about me personally. Oh, you can't be saved. And it made me mad, but not going down that road. So that drove me into this world that I was trying to figure out, okay, maybe I'm the idiot that doesn't understand who God is and Jesus is, and everybody else does. I'm just like stupid, and maybe they are right and I'm wrong. So I went down this thing I'm not going to go into all the details, but I went into learning quantum physics, quantum mathematics, quantum theories, and trying to figure out how God can be outside the element of time, space, and matter, and how time, space, and matter worked, and how he can move within it, and how time travel could work, and all this stuff. And within that, I found no answer. That I got any smarter about God, because couldn't figure it out, and neither does science. And that led me to like a point of where, if you read you hear the story about Jesus showed up with some of the disciples after he was crucified. The doors and the windows were shut. He just appeared inside of a house. Just, here he is. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy. How did this happen? So I kind of went in this whole other world, like, okay, let me try to figure this out. And because the LDS teach this concept of 7 different heavens, I'm like, oh, maybe this is a some dimensional thing. And so that drove me down the world of string theory because it has multiple dimensions, like it's actually 9 dimensions with 10 kind of in between dimensions. It doesn't matter. But anyways, I'm going down this whole road of string theory thing. There is these 7 heavens and this is dimensional and Christ moved in from another dimension. How did he do this? And I'm using that as an example to understand I was trying to figure out at a higher mystic level how God works and how he thinks beyond what our normal comprehension is. So that's kind of what these people do, this Kabbalah. But here's the issue, and to put this in all honesty, I don't feel, this is me speaking, that when that word infinite should be in the definition, because doing the etymology to it, and even through their pulling up of the etymology of this word that you find in the Old Testament, it came out after, because it became bigger in like the 12th century when they got bigger on this. And the original concept, the original take on Kates that came from the Semitic language into Hebrew at that time, I can't find zero context that suggests it has something to do with being infinite. So to answer the question, I would say no, that word infinite should not be in the word Kates as used in the literature at the time that this was written in Daniel. I understand their thinking, but it wasn't really truly its context. And how the word got its definition and started to grow is because the KJV, go figure, added that into their reading of the word Kates. And then it's actually used a few times, like in Job and a couple other times, they've used it in place of the word infinite, or they've used the word infinite and actually the word is Kates. And so that kind of really threw me off going, okay, well, if the KJV's doing it, that tells me it might be an issue. Because if you've ever been into, and I don't go into a lot, but the Bible Hub, have you ever seen that? And it'll have definitions of things. And it'll say, oh, here's the NSV or NSB or whatever it is. It'd be like 3 definitions to a word. Then you go to the KJV, it'd be like 20. It's like, wow, you just think everything means everything the same so you can write your book. And that goes back to when we were talking about the word abomination and tovah. You know, the word abomination is only used in the original writing 106 times, but in the KJV version, it comes out 153 times using the wrong word for definition. So I'm not going deep down the hole, but I just want to put it out, let you guys understand, just being honest. I would say that word infinite should not be in Kates in the context we were using it in. And therefore, instead of being, as we were talking about Kates, end of an infinite process, it'd just be the end of the process, the future end of a process, the process being Christ's redemption when he comes down into the context that it's talking about the second coming of him, or when the beast, Antichrist, comes in. It's the end of that process. So I want to be clear, be fair. That's where it is. So if anybody's got questions after that, I'll break it down a little bit more. But if you want to, go read up on the Kabbalah. It's really interesting, very interesting people. And some of the things they come up with, it's just an interesting read. I'll just put that. I wouldn't say go buy into it, die hard, but it's interesting. All right, so that's the Kates, and that's on the question we had last week. Does that answer? Does that clarify? Cool. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to break into things that we have studied, bring it up to the point they told you next week. We're going to go ahead and break down exactly who, what is, that everybody questions, and I've always been very adamant about who it is not. Well, tonight you're going to be able to see who it is, and I'm going to pose a question during it on a map, and I'm going to see if anybody can pop up going, I think it's that. We'll see what you guys' answer is, and we'll still go on from there. So anyways, this is the books we'll be into. Now, see, I mean, there's a few up there. They're not really long. 59's got a few verses, but so be clear, when we go into this stuff, we're going to be going back and looking at things we've already studied. So we're not going to restudy everything. So now this is the point where we're just going to bring up certain verses in the context that we already studied, so you already know what it says. Now, if this is something you haven't listened to before, if you're out there in camera land, you look and go, what? How do you get that? Well, go back and watch the video when we actually talked about that specific thing, because we're not going to break into and break down an entire chapter to come down to one silly word. Well, not silly word, but one word. So the concept here is, so we're going to go back. So we got, and what we're studying right now is we know that there's going to be an Antichrist. All right. So what we learned when we were teaching on the Church of Laodicea, and we're breaking down Laodicea, and we brought it down to that was a period or a season That was the seventh church, seventh period, the last period of church history that leads us into what's called the season or the apostasy. That's the season we're in now, the seventh church. We're in the apostate world where it's an apostasy. All right, and we know that the Antichrist, what everybody knows about the Antichrist, will be revealed from the apostasy. All right, meaning the period we're in, because in Revelation we were reading that the telling of John was the things has to do with the future, meaning recognizing things of the seasons. So we're in the season of apostasy, or the church of apostasy for the season of apostasy. So this goes to 2 Thessalonians 2, 3 through 4. And we already done this, but we're going to go through it. It says, verse 3, let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come unless, now remember when we talked about this before, the word is not unless, we broke it down by definition, the word is actually until. So until the rebellion, which now that word also, when we broke it down in the Hebrew, what it means is actually apostasy, comes first. So I'm going to reread it. Let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the apostasy comes first. Now, what was happening was, just a brief, if you don't remember, is the disciples were asking Christ, like, hey, when are you going to come? When is this? When is that? And he's, all the things they think it is, he goes, none of this is going to happen until the rebellion or the apostasy comes first. And the man of lawlessness, also known as the Antichrist, is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. All right, so we have to have the apostasy. The Antichrist can't come in until the apostasy, the season of apostasy has started. We're in the season of apostasy. This is from the church of Laodicea. So now we're in the season that he can be revealed. So the revealing of him is not the midpoint of tribulation when all of a sudden he's the really super bad guy. No, this goes back and lets us know how he is revealed. If we understand the prophecy, is Daniel really specifies this, that he is going to make a peace deal, a treaty with Israel. And this is Daniel 9, 26 and 27. We studied this more on the concept of understanding the 70 weeks. But I made mention to it then that it's going to come up later, and I'll point it out again here. And it says in verse 26, and after the 62 weeks, an anointed one shall be cut off and shall have nothing. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. So stop right there. And the people of the prince who is to come. This isn't the prince, Christ, who is to come, because Christ is not going to destroy any city, especially not Jerusalem and all the things. This is talking about the Antichrist, the one that's going to create the destruction. So, and the people of the prince, the Antichrist, we'll put it in there, who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Its end shall come with a flood, and to the end there shall be war. Desolations are decreed. The abominations of desolation, midpoint tribulation. And he, that prince, the Antichrist, shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week. And for half of the week he shall put an end to sacrifice and offering. So remember, the 1 week isn't 1 week, it means 7 years. 1 week is 7 years. The tribulation period is 7 years. So halfway through this, after he makes a covenant with many, well, who's he going to make a covenant with many that halfway through he's going to break the covenant and stop the daily sacrifices? Well, there's only one people that does that. It's Israel. All right, so he's going to make a pact with them, a covenant with them. Halfway through, he's going to end it. So we know this is telling us he's going to make a covenant, a peace deal, a treaty with them to bring them together. Halfway through, he's going to be the bad guy, and he's going to put an end to the sacrifices. And on the wing of abomination shall come the one who makes desolate, that's him, until the decreed end is poured out on the desolator. Okay, so now we know we have to have an apostasy. We're in the apostate age. He's got to come on scene. And how we can recognize he comes on scene is the guy who's going to make a peace deal with Israel. Now, the person that makes a peace deal with Israel, now I'm going to wrap this up here in just a second. Now, this now brings us into understanding Revelation chapter 6, which is the beginning of the understanding of what we call the tribulation period, all right? So the first thing it says, Revelation 6:2, it says, and I looked, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering and to conquer. So most people and everybody teach the fact that this is the white horse represents peace, and it does. And they recognize the white horse who's on it is the Antichrist. The only thing they kind of twist up and get wrong is the two words of conquering and to conquer. The conquering is a present tense word at the time that this would be happening, right? And we also learned that the word conquering doesn't mean he's actually making war, like killing people. You can conquer things. So he's going to conquer war because there's a war going on right now between what? Palestine and Israel. All right. Later on, makes sense. He's going to be the guy that's going to conquer, become the Antichrist. Everybody's waiting to see what happens of the beast. And he's going to take over the world, kill Jews, and do all the things. Now, the thing that matters on this, and then also we took that and understood the 4 different horses. And I brought it up. You have the white horse, you have the green horse, you have the black horse, and you have the red horse. Didn't do those in order, my bad. But these are the horses that represent by color the Palestinian flag. And then I actually made a point onto this. It's not just the Palestinian flag, it's the Arab revolt flag is where it came from back in 1916. All right, and I know a lot of people heard that like, whoa, you just blew Palestinians up. I don't care. I'm not blowing Palestinians up. I'm just telling you what the Bible's saying and the order of procession that's actually happening. Now, many today will go, hold on a second. There's no way that Palestine and Israel would ever really truly make a deal, a Jew versus a Muslim, an Israeli. There's 2 cultures. That's not going to happen. Yeah, I get Trump's in here. He's trying to make peace, but is there really ever going to be a peace deal that in order to the very fact that there's going to actually be a temple rebuilt and that there's going to be sacrifices done again? How is that even possible? And a lot of people are on the verge like, not really buying this. Well, here's something, if you're not buying it, here's a bit of truth to think about how this works. Anybody remember what happened in 1967, right? It's called the 6-Day War, all right? What would happen is Egypt, Jordan, and Syria had got together, made a pact, made a deal, and what they had done is they started lining up, and they vocally said, we're going to take out and kill Israel. We're going to wipe them off the map. Israel got wind of this, knew what they were doing. They were starting to get ready to strike on Israel, and Israel made a preemptive strike against them, and mostly Egypt, because Egypt was the big power behind it. And this is what they call the 6-Day War. All right, this is history. Then what happens in the 6-Day War? They take what we know now as the Sinai Peninsula that Egypt has today, but they took it at that time, occupied it, made war, they owned it from 1967 till 1979. You know what happened in 1979? Under Jimmy Carter, the David Accords happened, and Israel made a peace deal with Egypt, and they got along. And not only did they make the peace deal, Egypt gave them proximity to use the waters of the Aqaba Canal, which comes out of the Red Sea, because Israel didn't have access to that part of it, because their land comes down, and the very tip of it ends up right there, basically of the Red Sea. Well, either side of that, and we'll see this in a little bit, is you have Egypt and you have Saudi Arabia, but they gave them access to be able to go up in there with their peace deal. So can it be possible that we could have a president that could, and Jimmy Carter was the negotiator of this, that we could have a president that could help negotiate a peace treaty between Israel and an Islamic nation to come together, that Israel gives back land and is able to get something in return, like, say, a temple to be built. See, my point is this: we look at things in this weird view of like, oh, there's no way things can happen. History tells us it's already happened. Israel's already said, look, they've given back land. They've actually offered land back. But the point is, that's history, and this is where all this is going to happen. Now, I hope that makes sense. So that's from the Camp David, what's the word again? Accords. All right, so this has already happened, but this is what the Bible is prophesying to happen. And if you're paying attention right now, things are headed that way. I'm not going to say it's going to happen tomorrow, whatever, but we are trying to, and our president right now, Trump, is doing the very same things that Carter essentially was doing at that time. And point being, it can happen. Israel will and can make a peace deal with an Islamic nation. They've already done it once, and they're still basically buddies. They work very well together. All right, so now that's kind of the concept of the direction everything's going. Now, I want to make sure I do this right. Yep, okay, so now we're going to take and break into what we've been studying more recently in terms of the Ezekiel, Daniel prophecies and stuff. Where's my little, someone gave me this little flashy lighty thing. So I'm not using a broken broom handle anymore. I'm super techie. Someone said that, see, when I start AI, like Christ will come before that happens. So what's that? Well, okay, he lent it to me. Wow, sorry. But this is kind of cool. We'll see, unless it shows me like shaking real bad. Like, hold still. So anyways, so we're going to start breaking into the things we've been studying, and we're going to bring all of this together so you can comprehend it. Then we're going to break it down at the very end. So the first thing I want to look at, we're going to look at the statue. This is from Daniel chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar's dream. I'm sure all of us remember talking about this, but I'm just going to recap it a little bit. So we know that the head up here, oh, look at that, that's cool. Shoot him in the head. My bad. Anyway, so up here, this is the head. This is from Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and that was representative of Nebuchadnezzar, or the Babylon Empire. The next part right up in here was made of silver, and this represented the Medo-Persian Empire. Right here in what we keep calling the kilt area. This guy's not Scottish, by the way, but the kilt area. But it's talking about the hips and the groin and the buttocks, and I think this is kind of put in a very more politically correct way to say it. But this area right here was in bronze. That represented the Grecian Empire. And then you had the two legs. This was representing the Roman Empire. Then you had the feet. That was representing another empire later to come, made of iron and of clay. And we broke all that down. We'll talk a little bit more on that. All right, so that is the first thing. I did forget one, didn't I, Bill? The Ezekiel one. Did I forget the Ezekiel one? No, I did. Never mind. Okay, getting ahead of myself. I'm trying to be very specific so this makes sense as we go along. All right, so that was from Nebuchadnezzar 2. That represents the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kingdoms that are prophesied in Daniel. All right, so now let's break down and look at all these things put together. And first, we're going to start with Ezekiel's thing right here. Now, we've seen this map a million times. All right, I totally get it. We've seen it a million times. Now, one thing I want to point out, and I'm going to point right now, and later this is going to come up, there is a problem on this map. There is something missing on this map. And it's not, I mean, it is quasi a big deal, and we're going to get to it, but it's because there's a prophecy, and this is why we have to go into Revelation 9 tonight and pull a prophecy forward to fill in the rest of this map, and you'll see why it wasn't filled in basically correct. I didn't make this map, but everything else is accurate because all these countries that's coming in here are what's actually written in Ezekiel 38. All right, so this is what we know. It said that it's going to come against Israel right there. These things, these countries. All right, now there's this map from Ezekiel. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at what we learned through Daniel, the different empires. So we know right here is the Babylon Empire. All right, over here was Persia, over there is Egypt, but there's the Babylon Empire. So that's one. That was the head of gold. Next. All right, this is the Medo-Persian Empire. So there's Persia. It grew up, beat up these guys. They went over and took all of this over. So everything colored, it became the Medo-Persian Empire. So you can see where the Babylonian Empire was, and this all became the Medo-Persian Empire. All right, that was empire number 2. Okay, number 3. All right, so this here is the Grecian Empire. We know it all started way up over here by Alexander the Great and came across and smacked down that 2 horn as a unigoat because he had a horn between his eyes, and that's actually Phil's word. It's actually really cool. So this is the Grecian Empire. So obviously it grew, but it went out this way to the east a lot further. And obviously got more up here where basically Greece is. So that is empire number 3. Number 4. Everybody knows this one. Here is what we all know as what was the Roman Empire. Pretty much just ripped right around the Mediterranean. So that was number 4. That's the legs. All right, next. Now, what this is a map that I actually pulled up. If you look at it, it says visitedplaces.com. It's kind of cool. I can go in and grab a map, and I can do my own color coding and all this other stuff. I went super tech. This is even better than PowerPoint that I did last week. I was super proud of myself. It only took me like 6 days. But I'm kidding, not that bad. Probably 6 hours. But anyways, okay, so what this is a combination of Ezekiel's prophecy and Daniel's prophecy. So what you see up here in pink, that would be the Gog or the Russia area. It doesn't say Russia up there. And this right here, you see Sudan and Ethiopia right here, was the Put. I think it's Put, right? I could be back with Put and Cush. But all right, so these two are not mentioned in the empires that came up out of Daniel's vision. All right, but those are still something that's going to be coming against, right there, the little red spot, Israel. All right, so within this, you have right here was the Babylonian Empire. Then right through here is what you had was the Medo-Persian Empire, and then right here ended up being the fourth empire or the third empire. This ended up being what was the Grecian Empire, and then right here, what's in green was the Roman Empire. Now it went like this. I couldn't figure out how to do multicolors, like put stripes in it, but this would just continue this way and all the way around. All right. So that was the 4 different empires. So this map is representing the 2 books. They're prophesying what's going to happen in the end times by country, by status, where they're at. All right. So I told you here a minute ago, and yeah, I told you here a minute ago is the thing that there was something missing to the other map that is now basically on this map, but it's not on the one from Ezekiel. And there's a reason for that, and we're going to go ahead and look at that right now because I don't want you guys to think I'm making things up. So we're going to break this down really quick. And it's going to have 2 parts to it, but I told you we're going to take Revelation 9, a prophecy from it, and we're going to pull it forward to where we are in Revelation 6 right now, but because of what we're studying right now. So here in Revelation 9, and here's the big thing I'm going to tell you. Oh, can we go back to that one real quick? So what I'm going to tell you right now is on the other map that was from Ezekiel, doesn't talk about these 2 right here. It does not have mentioned. And there's a reason for it. We'll get to it. But they are prophesied in Revelation. That other map is missing this part, and we'll explain why in a little bit. But Syria and Iraq are not shown on the Ezekiel map. So here is Revelation 9, and it says, now I'm not going to go through all of Revelation 9. So please, let me make this statement right now. I'm only going to break out what is contextual and pertinent to tonight, because we will get to Revelation 9, and this is a highly disputed chapter, not because of this verse, but because this is the one that Hal Lindsey done told us there's a bloody helicopter in this stupid thing. There's no helicopter. So don't ask. We're not going to break all that down. But what I am going to point out, and I'll give you the context to it, you'll be able to see it, to what it's speaking of, okay? To understand what's missing on the other map. And it says in Revelation 9, this is verses 13 through, I think it's 16. And it says, then the 6th angel blew his trumpet, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar before God, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound by the great river Euphrates. So the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour, the day, the month, and the year were released to kill a third of mankind. The number of mounted troops was twice 10,000 times 10,000. I heard their number. Okay, now, before we put up the map here really quick, what I want to point out on this is, well, let's go and throw up the map. All right, right here, this doohickey bobber, that's the Euphrates. There's Iran, there's Iraq, there's Syria, there's Turkey. All right, and from the Euphrates, the 4 angels are going to release armies of thousands upon thousands of 10,000, whatever the exact word was, from the 4 angels of the Euphrates. How about the 4 countries? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the alliance that is being built and was even built back in the day. If you look back at Daniel's visions, all these countries, including Syria and Iraq, were part of those other empires. But in Revelation 9, still mid-tribulation, we haven't got to the mid part, the worst part. This is the first part, which that one map is, that I call the Ezekiel map, the one that I said was wrong. This is in the prophecy to Revelation 9. Or I'm sorry, to the pre-prophecy that these 4 countries will, it's dying. All right, so we'll use it a little less. I'm having too much fun with it. All right, so those 4 countries are releasing mounted troops. Now, if you keep reading it, it'll go into thing about horses and all the things, which actually we're going to go into in a little bit, but that's the irrelevant part. These 4 countries will align. And what I've told you back in the beginning of September, I said, pay attention to what's going on in the world and what's going on in Iraq today. Right now, they're getting ready to do their votes for their for the prime minister, for their house, right? They're getting ready to do all their elections. I think might have been today. It's this month, anyways. And then that brings in a prime minister, and that prime minister is what dictates the relationship that has between Iran to Iraq. And everybody already knows, and like I told you I was there before, it's already steeped that Iran is already developing a control or an alliance, if you will, with Iraq. But I just said, pay attention to the elections. That makes a big deal. Syria is already aligned with Turkey. I was over there. I know what goes on over there. Definitely Iran and Turkey have alignments. And when I say alignments, friendships, they do in things, they work together. And there's things behind the scenes that they do that doesn't get out publicly. But point being, those 4 countries are going to be in alignment and work together to also as well come against Israel at the same time. All right, so that's Revelation 9. So that's Revelation 9, and that's where Iraq and Syria play into the one from Daniel. In a little bit, we're going to go back into Daniel, and you're going to see something where you can see that it was actually missed. I know what she's doing. That's working right now, but go ahead and bring me my broken broom handle. All right, so now there's the understanding of this. Now, here's the big thing. So we looked at the big map that I actually built. All right. Yeah, appreciate that. Just in case I need it. I do like the light thing, but I'll go Sanford and Son in a minute if I have to. That's my backup.
Bring a fresh battery next week.
All right. So now what we're going to study next and what we're going to talk about next is something that's going to give you a little bit more insight to take away and to fully start comprehending everything I have been saying to everything that's going to happen. And this comes from Daniel. These things we already taught on. So there's just a couple phrases I'm going to pop out of these that I'm going to break down the etymology to a word. Yeah, I do got it up there. I want to make sure. All right. So in Daniel 7:3, okay, this is Daniel 7. Now, this is the point when we were studying, it was really more concentrated on the concept of beasts. All right. But then it also brought up the whole point of the 10 horns. And then a little horn came up, and that made the one big beast. All right. The beast that's going to be at the very end, the one that's of the iron and clay feet, the last kingdom to arrive. All right. The one that's going to take out everything. And Daniel 7:3 says, and 4 great beasts came out of the sea. Now, notice what it says next, different from one another. Now, this is going to make sense here in a second. Different from one another. So right here scripturally in Daniel 7, it's telling us from that part of it that these 4 beasts, each one's different from the other. Okay, yeah, so what? Okay, Daniel 7:19. This is Daniel speaking. Then I desired to know the truth about the 4th beast, which was different from all the rest. And remember, the 4th beast is not, I will say it is not the Roman Empire when we studied it, but exceedingly terrifying with its teeth and iron clay of bronze, or iron and claw of bronze, and which devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. What I want you to see up there, it says, which was different from all the rest. Hold that for a second. Different from all the rest. This 4th beast, different from all the rest. Now, that's Daniel saying, I would like to know. Daniel 7:23 is now when he's being told the answer to the question he just asked. And it says, thus he said, as for the 4th beast, there shall be a 4th kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all the kingdoms, and it shall devour from the whole earth and trample it down and break it into pieces. And we know this last kingdom is one of the bad beasts is going to be when the Antichrist takes over. Now, notice there it says, different from all the kingdoms. Here's the phrase we're looking at. Kol Malkavata. All right. This is Hebrew. So I'm going to tell you what this word means. Break it down for you. So this is I'm sorry, it's not Hebrew. It's Aramaic. Remember, we were in Daniel 7. That's Aramaic. It's not Hebrew. So this is Aramaic. All right. So the word kol in the phrase of kol makavata that right there, can be translated as every in the sense of all of or the whole of, which implies without exception. The phrase literally means every kingdom or all the kingdoms in biblical and post-biblical Aramaic context, such as, and the interesting thing in the breakdown of this word and finding out, it actually specifically mentions this one verse. Such as in the book of Daniel, the term kol often expresses totality or completeness, particularly when referring to God's universal dominion over all earthly kingdoms. Now, again, you're like, so what? Here's the point. If you go back, well, don't go back, but going back, it says different from one another. So there was something specific that you knew the difference, and it wasn't the word all, was different from the other ones. So we have a subject matter to it going, okay, we know it's not the same as the other ones like we've seen in the statue or what was talked about in Daniel 7. But in 19 and 23, talking about the fourth, it says it's different from all the rest. It's different from all the kingdoms. By the definition of kol, malkvada, it is different, and there's nothing contextual. There's nothing that says different from all the kingdoms before, different than all the kingdoms now. This is referring to different than every kingdom that ever existed in God's universal dominion over all earthly kingdoms. It's forever. It's it's not infinite. I'm not going to say we're infinite. But it's from every kingdom that has ever existed. This fourth one, this last one, the one that stands up, the one we call the beast, the one that's going to come with the Antichrist, is different from every other single kingdom. Now, show up that map. The next one. Okay. So, there it is. So, if the kingdom that is to arrive is different from every other kingdom that has ever existed, but we can leave this in just for fun, just in what's been talked about in Ezekiel and Daniel. There is one king, or there's one kingdom, there's two kingdoms, there's three kingdoms, there is four kingdoms. Woo! There we go. There is four kingdoms. The fourth kingdom we're talking about is right here, right? So if it's different than every single kingdom, then how, one, can the Roman Empire be a kingdom again? It can't. It's entirely impossible. That defies everything the Bible says, because the final kingdom isn't one of those four. In fact, it's not any of them that are already been existing. It's not the United States. It's not Canada. It's not South America. It's not all the other things. But point being, it's different from every kingdom. The point I'm making on just this aspect is that it cannot be the Roman Empire. And I'm saying that to be anybody out there thinks it is. It can't be. That is scripture. That is by the Bible. It isn't. So here's my question. If this final kingdom is different from all the rest, than any other kingdom, this kingdom that's going to stand up and it's going to become the beast, what kingdom do you think it is? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. You can look at the map. The answer is on the map. We'll do a little Jeopardy. Dun, 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 dun. Just kidding. Anybody? Look, does anyone want to take a stab at it? I'll give you a hint. Everything in blue, all right, it has not been a kingdom. Dun, 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 dun. What? No. Keep looking. Anything? What? You're close, but no. Right here. Next picture, please. There you go. Now we're going to finish up. There is the kingdom that has never been a kingdom before. Notice its location. Notice the yellow is Israel. That little red dot right there on this side, that's Palestine. This has never been a kingdom, but it's forming a kingdom today. But this is just the start of it. All right. So now, let's do this. I got to flip my board over because we need to answer prophecy. So you don't think that I'm talking out things that are not in my face. Flip the board over. Now, we'll do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. All right, go ahead. Remember what we said. It has 10 toes and it has 10 horns, right? 10 horns. Everybody remember this. All right. There it is. And remember, Egypt is not mentioned at all in the prophecy in Daniel or Ezekiel. Let's count them if you guys want to write it. Number 1, Yemen. Down here, see, this is where the little marker works better. Yemen. Number 2, Oman. Number 3, known as UAE or United Arab Emirates. UAE. Number 4, that little finger sticking up right there. All right. Right there. That's Qatar or Qatar, however you want to write it. QATAR. See the little dot right here? Didn't do well on my little mappy thing. That's another little country. It's called Bahrain. BAHRAIN. Number 6, right there, little country called Kuwait. KUWAIT. The big one in the middle, Saudi Arabia. Oh, I'm not going to write SA on here. I'll put Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arab. All right. Number 8, Jordan. Number 9, way up there where it says Syria, Lebanon. Number 10, Egypt. And but there has to be a little horn that arises different than all the rest because it's not a country yet. Remember when I gave the example of the U.S. Virgin Islands? There is a country in this that has not risen up yet, not a country, but will rise up and take over the beast and take 3 down. Palestine. There's your number 11. And notice how it is very little. It's not a massive country. So 11 would be your Antichrist headquarters for the 11th. There are your 10 countries, your 10 horns. There is your beast. But we're not done. I'm going to even go further and prove it into greater detail that this is all it can possibly be. All right, I'm going to flip my board back over. Okay, now this goes. Now, if you're going back to when we were studying Ezekiel 36, 37, 38, and 39, 36 and 37 gave us the path of timeline based upon Israel's inhabitants. So it was scattered, it was scattered, it was scattered. It is now, and it's going to get scattered again midway through the tribulation, exactly how Daniel puts it out. And we are in the period that they are in before the last scattering, all right? The point of which the tribulation starts. Then 38 and 39, the map that was up there before, where am I at here? Yeah, map that was up there before, the white one, all right, is the one that's actually prophesying about Ezekiel 38, the first half of the tribulation, like I told you. And I said 39 was the second half of the tribulation, the point when the beast takes in. Now, if you're really kind of paying attention and really thinking, I do need to erase some of this. Dang it. If you're really thinking about it, you're going, hold on a second. We studied all this, but I don't remember anything in Daniel, especially Daniel 39, that was referring to the fact that that existed or that was a beast. But that area right there, then that's a really super good question. Guess what? I did the same thing. I was like, when I was learning all this, I was like, hold on a second. This doesn't fit Daniel 39. So how can this be the beast? That doesn't make sense. That's not fair. But I know since I told everybody to go and take Daniel 36, 37, 38, 9, I said, go do your homework. I know everybody did their homework. I know it. I know everybody already knows this answer. I'm probably just speaking stupidly up here. I don't even need to talk about this. I say that in jest. I mean, look, when you said homework to me in high school, my brain went riding my bike, playing baseball, football, going to a friend's house, even milking cows. That was homework. I was not into homework. I didn't believe homework belonged at home. It should be, all that should belong in school. Sorry, teacher. Definitely against it. And that's why I kind of like always said D stands for diploma. I still walk the stage. Kidding. No, I did walk the stage though. All right, so I need my, I'm going to maintain with this. Okay, I don't need this right now. So now we're going to go ahead. We're going to look at we're going to look at Ezekiel 38 and Ezekiel 39, just parts of it, because we need to break this down. And I actually need a pen for this so that you guys can see something that is said you may never even realize before. And no one has ever realized that I know it. So in Ezekiel 38, 1 through 6, now this is the prophecy of Ezekiel of the before the midpoint of the tribulation. So again, the first half of the tribulation. All right. And it's Ezekiel 38, verses 1 through 6. And the word of the Lord, I'm going to bring this over here because we're going to break down what it says. All right. So the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face toward Gog and the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Stop. So just the things you see in that big map up there. So we have, I'll just do on this side. We have Gog. We have Magog. All right. And we have Meshech and Tubal. Oh, that's right here. All right. Next it says, and prophesy against him. And this is being talked at to Gog. And say, thus says the Lord God, behold, I am against you, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn you about and put hooks into your jaws, and I'll bring you out. And all of your army, horses and horsemen, and all of them clothed in full armor, a great host of all of them with buckler and shield, wielding swords. Persia, Cush, Put. Persia, Kut. I said about, did I do it the right way? Put, no. Persia, Push, and Kut. Dang. Funny names. Are with them. And then them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all of his hordes. And Beth Togarmah, from the uttermost parts of the north, with all of its hordes, many peoples are with you. So that Beth BT, all right? Now, this is the first part of the tribulation. Now, here's a word I need to bring out, and this is how the part where I was telling you that this is missed in Ezekiel, the prophecy in 9. And it's because if you notice what it says, I'll reread that part. Gomer and what? And all of his hordes. So he's a plus. There's others behind Gomer. And the next one actually says Beth Togarmah and all of its hordes. That's a plus. Now, let's see what the word hordes actually is in Hebrew. And this is what it is. Hordes comes from the word agap. That's A-G-G-A-P-H. It was on there, A-G-G-A-P-H. Agap. It's a noun, masculine, meaning band and army. Now, this is a loan word, originally meaning wing of an army. It comes from a Syrian word, agapu, an Aramaic word meaning wing, and a Hebrew wing, or others, meaning from a Hebrew word meaning body, which also is hug or embrace. And someone was actually talking about agape love. It kind of, that's a root to it, but to hug or embrace. Here's what it further says. So I'll read that part. So agape comes from 3 different languages, Syrian meaning army, and the Aramaic word meaning wing, and others, and then from a Hebrew word meaning hug or embrace. It further says, all Ezekiel and everything are all plural. And it actually gives each time, so this is multiples. It's saying there's not just one, it's not in a singular form. In Ezekiel 38:9, Ezekiel 39:4, Ezekiel 12:14, Ezekiel 38:6. That the term is being used in a plural form. So the hordes is others. And it further goes on, it says Ezekiel consistently employs it as a military metaphor for troops that extend outward from or give support to another central force. So in simplistic forms, what it's saying is Gomer and Beth Togarmah, all right, there's them plus their hordes or other groups, other armies that are supporting them. Further, others that embrace or give support to Gomer's, as the example in this one, army, i.e. its troops. meaning an alliance or a coalition. So Gomer and BT, you went through all these countries. They are named in that map. Yep, they're named in that map, but except the Iraq-Syria one. But Revelation 9 tells us Iraq and Syria are coming on it. But what we learned going back to 38, the pre-tribulation part, that there are other armies that are aligned with Gomer and Beth Tomorah, and both of those at the time were in the country that we call today Turkey. Yeah, Turkey. All right. So that's part of the reason we're doing this. So that's where we're getting the Iraq-Syria part and why that map is incomplete. Because you, like I always said, in order to understand Revelation, you have to understand the rest of the Bible. You have to put it all together. It was missed. But now let's look at 39 really quick, because we're talking about that thing we call the beast. And this is all going to align. And it says, you son of man, prophesy against Gog. There it is. So check. This actual one's really easy. And say, thus says the Lord God, behold, I am against you, O chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Meshech and Tubal. All right. Meshech and Tubal, where'd you go? And I will turn about you and drive you forward and bring you up from the uttermost parts of the north and lead you against the mountains of Israel. So this is a war against them in the second half of the tribulation. You shall fall on the mountains of Israel, you and all your hordes and all the peoples, all the nations, that translates to nations, who are with you. So we know from 38, the ones that are with them are all these, Push, Kut, Gomer, BT, everybody else, but it hasn't mentioned Magog yet. And the reason why I'm leaving that there, because it does talk about it in a second. I will give you the birds of prey and every sort of beast to the fields to be devoured. Now, this is actually a Revelation prophecy. All right, this is going marriage supper of the Lamb. You shall fall in an open field, for I have spoken, declares the Lord. I will send fire on Magog. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Everyone's been named. Everything has been together, right? But what does it say next? The word and on those who dwell securely in the coastlands, and they shall know that I'm Lord. Who is dwelling securely on coastlands? They're not mentioned in in Ezekiel 38. Everything else, and the word and. There is someone else involved in this, of all their coastlands who dwell securely. So who would be dwelling securely in the second half of the tribulation when the great beast comes out and you have what will now be a caliph, this country of 10, now are ruling the entire world? We all know that's what the plan that's going to take place. This beast is taking over. They will be the ones living secure. They are in control. Just like the greater we are as a nation, the U.S., the more secure we are. Same concept. But they're dwelling securely in the coastlands. All right. So what is a coastland by definition? And this is the part, I'm going to be honest, when I was looking and going, hold on a second, when I figured out who the beast was, like, hold on a second, why are you not mentioned here in chapter 39 of Ezekiel? If you're saying this is the second half, how come you're not talking about these guys? Well, they are. This is what about the coastlands. But I don't want you to believe me simply because I'm telling you. We're going to use the Bible. We're going to break this down. I'm going to prove it to you. I'm not going to prove it to you. I'm sorry. The Bible's going to prove it to you. So the word coastlands, I'm going to go ahead and flip this back over without hitting the wall. Whew. All right. Winner. Is this word hayim. All right. This is a Hebrew word. It translates to the coastlands, the islands, or the regions. The word appears multiple times in the Hebrew Bible, such as, I love this, Ezekiel 39:6, where the user's specified form of hayim is found and refers to coastal or maritime regions and their inhabitants. All right, so when I was first getting this, I'm like, okay, cool. You're talking about the coastlands, but I know the countries. I've been over there. I know what it looks like, but I'm going, hold on a second. Hold on. One of these countries is landlocked. So that cannot be specific. It can't be right. It has to be 100% accurate. You just can't pick and choose. And I'm like, and even if you go back to the Bible, or go back to the old times, when it's talking about Edom. So Edom, like modern day Jordan, is pretty much Edom. Now, Edom did this sometimes big, sometimes small, sometimes over. A lot of times it was a landlocked country that pretty much essentially is a portion of Jordan. But in my head, I'm going, hold on a second, bro. There's a landlocked country over there in this area. This cannot be accurate. It can't, and this is how specific I get. I go, if it's not 100% accurate, then it can't be right. Well, I was wrong. So here's the first map I want to show you. Slide this out of the way. That is Jordan right there. I'm going to get my broom handle. So here's Jordan. I always thought this thing was landlocked. You follow the little candy cane line, and it comes down here to what is called the Gulf of Aqaba. That's this piece of the Red Sea. Notice it kind of sits right here a little bit. Second picture. And this is actually Google Map stuff. Now you come in, it does actually have a coastline. It actually has a coastline. Now, the thing with this is, though, I'm like, hold on a second. Okay, so this silly thing has a little bit of a coastline. Does that really mean that this truly would be a coastland place, just because it's a little bit of a beach? So I went further into it. This is how much I even I shouldn't say doubt myself, want to prove how right the Bible is. So I went and looked, did a bunch of research and all this stuff to figure out, in a biblical context, what is a maritime region that it's talking about in terms of the word hayim. And it is this. It qualifies as any coastland, island, or territory situated along a large body of water, usually pertaining to the Mediterranean or the Great Sea or the Red Sea, that engages in seafaring, trade, or fishing. The term often implies areas of significant commerce and cultural exchange due to their access to the sea routes. A maritime region in the Bible is defined by its physical proximity to the sea and the resultant cultural, economic, and historical interactions driven by sea, travel, and trade. Okay, so now we're talking about Jordan. And the three things it says, they're all ors, but it gave us three definitions to include also seafaring, trade, fishing, and commerce. All right. So let's look at Jordan here really quick. So let's look at fishing. Well, one thing Jordan actually has, it has fishing tours. And one of the big things they put on the thing, and it's probably a menu item. I haven't really ate a lot of this over there, but they go out into the Red Sea from here and they go get a bunch of tuna and baby sharks. I haven't had a baby shark in Jordan yet, but I'm looking to get over there and try to nibble one down. So that's one. Now, let's break it even down. Now, it also says seafaring. So, definition of seafaring. The term seafaring means working as a sailor, traveling regularly on the sea, or the business, calling of a sailor, military included. Guess who has a navy? Jordan has a navy. Guess who are on navy ships? Sailors. Now, let's look at their economic activity, which is part of trade. Economic activity, this is the definition of it. Maritime regions were centers of trade and commerce. Cities like Tyre were renowned merchants of the peoples with extensive trade networks. King Solomon established a fleet of Ezion Gerber on the Red Sea for trade with Ophir. The bustling port of Joppa was used for importing goods such as cedars for the temple. So we're talking about trade. We're talking about import-exports. Well, get in here just a second. Jordan actually has what's called the JMC or JMA. The Jordan Maritime Authority is a government agency with the responsibility of governing the Red Sea, domestic ports, sea roads, shipping for Jordan. It was established in 2002 by royal decree and functions in conjunction with one of its ministerials, being the Ministry of Transport, its headquarters in Aqaba. Now, just to give you some numbers, here are the key figures related to Jordan's maritime economy, so their trade. Total merchandise, now this is importing, exporting, all right? Their trade is just under $38 billion. Their commercial services in exporting is $4.5 billion. And in their Ministry of Transport, in their transportation sector of the gross domestic product, where you just ferry boating and all the little things, their transportation is just right about $800 million. So that means that Jordan meets every single criteria biblically, by definition today, to be a country that would be defined as being a coastline country. Now, the next thing, throw up the next picture. This right here is Brothers Company for International Shipping. This is all their import-export businesses going on right now today. So Jordan is not a landlocked country. Jordan is exactly what is meant to be. Next picture. Going right back to this. So every one of those countries, if you look at them, are all maritime. Every one is coastland. Everyone's economy is based upon those. And if you remember any of the other pictures we put up there, like Roman Empire, how many landlocked countries are in the Roman Empire? A lot. How many, when you look at even like when you go over to Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, how many are landlocked? All of them. All right. How many in Africa? A lot of them. How many in the United States? A whole bunch. See what I'm saying? There is only one country, and one place in the planet Earth that have 10 countries that I can find that's in this region that actually meets every single criteria that I can actually have all maritime jobs. Now, you might be going, oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. And most people know the answers for it. But let's be honest, be fair. Palestine. Unfortunately, the map would not let me put up the Gaza Strip, which is against the Mediterranean Sea on the west side of Israel. So even itself has maritime access by definition. That is every one of them. Now, here's the next cool thing. The last thing I'm going to talk about right now. Last thing I'm going to show. So this isn't the only place that this was prophesied about this, what we're talking right now. We're going to go over to Isaiah 59. This is a prophecy in Isaiah. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if you read the first half of it, basically, you'll see it's about sinning and doing bad things, and God's going to conquer and blah, 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 blah. I should say blah, blah, blah. You know the context to it. I mean, it's a prophetical thing, and there's a lot of bad peoples. But Isaiah 59, oh boy. Hey, I screwed that up. Can you put up 14 through 21? I'm sorry, guys. I didn't write the numbers down. I just looked at the first number. So this is going to be Isaiah 59, 14 through 21 when it gets up here. I don't want to do like I did a couple weeks ago, and I completely read a complete different chapter and all that stuff. So this second half from 14 on, we're going to see this is creating prophecy, talking to, it's really kind of specific to the Israelites, that he's talking to. Two things are happening within it. One is his basically going to beat down on his judgment. And the second one is his redemption to him. Now, that's exactly what's happening in the second half of tribulation. He's developed, or in tribulation, there's a judgment, the bad people, and there's a redemption to Israel. All right. Okay, we got it. All right, so let's go ahead and read through this. Verse 14, justice is turned back and righteousness stands far away, for truth has stumbled in the public squares, and uprightness cannot enter. Truth is lacking, and he who departs from evil makes himself prey. I find that a very interesting story. He who departs from evil makes himself, the word is prey. So evil is something that denies that of who is Jesus Christ. So if you are saying who Christ is and someone is saying, no, Jesus Christ is not God, you now become prey. Now, I'm not trying to convince you right now to what's going on in Africa, but look what's going on in Africa. To the people who are turning their back against evil, against the people who deny who Jesus Christ is. That's my put on this. I'm not saying that's exactly what this says, but I want you to think about that. Someone is being prey, meaning they're being hunted. The Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no justice. He saw there was no man and wondered that there was no one to intercede. Then his own arm brought him salvation. That would be Christ. And his righteousness upheld him. That would be Christ. He put on righteousness as a breastplate, Christ, and a helmet of salvation on his head, Christ. He put on garments of vengeance and clothing. That would be Christ. Remember, he's no longer the lamb. He is now the lion. He's coming to take people out, his vengeance. And wrapped himself in a zeal as a cloak. That is Christ. Verse 18, according to their deeds. This would be the bad peoples, the evils, the people who don't believe in Christ. According to their deeds, so he will repay wrath to his adversaries, repayment to his enemies. To the coastlands, he will render repayment. So they will fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. For he will come like a rushing stream, which the wind of the Lord drives. And a redeemer, so now he's crushed everybody, and a redeemer will come to Zion. To those in Jacob, Israel, Israelites, Jews, who turn from transgression, declares the Lord. And as for me, this is my covenant with them, says the Lord. My spirit that is upon you, and my words that I have put in your mouth, shall not depart out of your mouth, or out of the mouth of your offspring, or out of the mouth of the children's offspring, says the Lord, from this time henceforth and forevermore. So if we go back to the original map we ever had, what I call the Ezekiel map, we've now put together 38 and 39. The only addition is this, which was the thing of the hordes, was not in there. But Revelation 9 tells us these 4 countries are going to be aligned. That is not even hard to fathom today. There's still work in progress on this, but here's something to think about. That's in Revelation 9. And you remember how when Revelation is coming up, there is peace. What do you think is causing the war? There's a country out there that's going to be pretty well ticked off the moment, oops, next map. Pretty well ticked off when that little country decides to make an alliance with that country, and it's the big ugly one right there. Now, can we go back to the other map? There's one last thing I want to point out. So look at this right here. Everything that's on here. We know this is out of play. These guys are not coming back. They don't match any part of anything that they're going to come back and become the beast. But look at every other country's involved. We're just going to use this one because it's big. All right, starting over here, Algeria, Libya, Islam, 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 Islam. Does that make any sense? How could that be? You mean you're trying to tell me that Islam's going to come against the Jews? Come on. Yes, they're going to come across the Jews. And what's even more specific about this? These 10 countries right here, why it's important, we talked earlier about a caliph, 2 different beliefs between Sunni and Shia. Shia believe that their belief is an imam coming down like their own God, their imam's going to come back. The Sunnis, which is every one of these countries right here, do not believe that. They believe, like we talked about, a caliph. So a caliph for a caliphate, that means they will have a single leader that will rule their entire belief system. If this entire belief system is following one person, you have a caliphate. That's exactly what they're going after right now and trying to develop. And then that caliphate is going to take over the entire world once, for the most part, the church leaves. Last picture, or what picture we had, sorry. All right, so I hope this makes sense. So ladies, gentlemen, kids, pulpits, peoples, everybody out there, this is not a joke. Disprove me if you like to. There's your beast. That's what's coming. Now understand, that isn't until the second half of the tribulation. But that already exists. They are already aligned. They are already friends. They are already, almost all these countries, what's funny, but 3, are really into the point of being peace between Israel and Palestine with the U.S.'s help. That is real. That's all I got. Thanks for coming out tonight, and I really hope that makes sense, and I hope that you can walk away from here knowing and paying attention to what's going on in the world and where this is going. That's all I got. Thanks, guys. Any questions? Anything?